First at 5:30, Brown University and several other institutions are now suing the Trump administration after the National Institutes of Health attempted to make significant cuts to federal research funding.
A Massachusetts judge has now blocked that order, but what happens with those proposed cuts mean for local research? Kate Wilkinson breaks down those numbers.
The Trump administration says too much federal funding is going towards overhead costs, but Brown and other institutions say that money is vital for biomedical research.
On Friday, the NIH announced its plans to cut back on indirect costs for organizations like hospitals and universities that receive federal funding. Brown says that affects everything from IT to building and maintaining lab space.
Last fiscal year, Brown says it received $253 million in federal funds. Of that, $69 million went towards indirect costs, making up roughly 27% of those funds. The Trump administration wants to essentially cut that in half to 15%.
The Trump administration says other private foundations have their cap at 15% for indirect costs, including the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Over the weekend, a spokesperson for the White House wrote, "The indirect cost rate is intended to cover overhead, and the federal government has been paying an exorbitantly high rate."
Brown says federal funding pays for several research projects, including $71 million for dementia research, $6.6 million for coronary heart disease detection, and $133 million for Alzheimer's treatments. University officials warn those projects and others are all at risk if their indirect NIH funding is cut.
On Monday, a federal judge in Boston blocked the cut after Brown and others filed a lawsuit, writing, "In addition to being a disaster for science, NIH's action is an affront to the separation of powers." Rhode Island Congressman Seth Magaziner agrees.
This move by the Trump administration is blatantly illegal. Donald Trump and Elon Musk don't get to just do something different because they feel like it. Under our system of government, Congress appropriates funding.
And as we said, a judge in Boston has halted this funding cut now in response to the lawsuits. The next hearing on the issue is scheduled for February 21st. Kate Wilkinson, 12 News.